Hi and welcome to this episode 7 of Land Rovers Live. As always, I'm Matt, and let's take a look at what's coming up on today's show. As always, we've got news from across the globe, all things Land Rover. Then, we're going to head over to Black Country 4x4 and take a look at weatherproofing and see how we can protect your vehicle for the rigours of winter. Later on, we'll be announcing last week's competition winners of the disc lock, which came top in our security review. And after that, we'll be heading over to the Co-operative to see what they're doing with their new Land Rover Defender. But first, earlier in the year, we produced a full library of all the different clubs that we'd met across the shows, whether it be the SVX Club, Land Rover Series Club, and everything in between. So you can check those out on the link on the screen below at our new Black Book. If your club is not in there, do let us know. This is an ever-expanding database. And as such, this week we're going to head over to West Midlands 4x4 to one of their monthly club meetups. I'm on my way now. I'll see you on the other side. So joining me this week as guest host is Neil Ensor, the brains behind Landy Lover, what's now 4B, and the leader of the West Midlands 4x4 group. Hi Neil, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
Good, good. It's a real miserable day at this meetup today, but it's a bit warmer inside.
Surprised we had such a turnout, considering.
Yes, quite. Should we have a look at some news this week?
Absolutely.
So last week, I think you saw our security review.
I did indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we took a look at some security products last week, and we had loads of comments online about various different things. One of them being the people were getting a bit upset that we were showing how to disable these devices. I'm not sure if you saw that, but we just want to clear that up and say we showed roughly how to do things, but actually we took out all the important steps. So fear not, it wasn't an instructional guide on how to actually disable your security devices. So, but as we know, we're not really going to convert any good people into bad guys by showing a video of how to do something. Sure. But as we know, there are plenty of baddies about. And then one of the products we looked at was your now 4B security padlock.
The alarm padlock, yes.
That's it. And it's fair to say, when faced with an angle grinder, it doesn't come up that well, does it?
Absolutely.
But then neither does any other padlock. You came up with some suggestions of different ways that you use it as a deterrent, and can you just talk about one or two of those?
Well, for a start, I've never used it with a chain. Yes, it is what it is, and with an angle grinder, you're going to get through it, absolutely. But I put one on the steering wheel of my van and of my Defender, and I kind of think that if anyone's going to steal my car or my van, I'm going to make sure that they're deaf by the time they're home, because it can just sit on there, and the moment they move the steering wheel or move the gear lever, it's going to go off.
And that's a great piece of advice, really, because if you put the padlock in a position that somebody doesn't have to take it off, chances are they're not going to go to the trouble of doing that. And at that stage, it's going to give you an uncomfortable
It's going to surprise them,
yeah. And as we said last week, security in numbers is really the aim of the game here. We want to get as much stuff onto our vehicles as possible. And in future weeks, we're going to be taking a look at electronic security now we've done physical security. So that'll be trackers, immobilisers, and any other good bits and pieces that we can find along the way. So let's move on to the next bit. And 2015 will see the Rugby World Cup come to London, famously sponsored by Land Rover. I don't know if you've seen that about.
Yep.
And one of the things that is happening, which is quite interesting in partnership with a whole bunch of different companies at the moment, is that there is a charity-run scheme, something or other, called Africa as One. And what their aim is to go across 45 countries in 45 weeks, handing a rugby ball from South Africa, person by person, all the way to London.
Right.
So
it's quite a journey.
It's quite a journey. So a bit like the Olympic torch relay, I guess, but with a rugby ball this time. And our good friends at Front Runner have kitted out the whole troop of Disco 4s with all the bits and pieces that you'd want to see on there. They've got some fancy roof racks and other bits and pieces. It's really coming in now. So we'll put a few links on the screen if you want to follow that around, and that should be in London just in time for the start of the 2015 Rugby World Cup. And then the last bit of news that we've got, I'm not sure if you've been keeping abreast of your Paris Motor Show news.
You know what, I did see that.
Yeah.
They've got some pretty trick stuff going on, haven't they?
They have indeed, and So what Neil's referred to is the Land Rover essentially floated a golf course up the river towards the Paris
amazing,
Motor
isn't
Show with what can only be described, well, they are giant welly boots attached all the way around it, and somebody, and I'll have to check my notes for this, called Rosie Huntington Whiteley, who friend of yours?
Maybe.
Who's apparently a known person. She's doing some bits and pieces on the launch of the Discovery Sports, and that's quite interesting. But it does remind me of the map that they used to have on This Morning. You remember that one?
Yeah.
They used to jump
slightly offshore.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's quite impressive though, the way the cars are going over it.
Oh, hugely impressive. Yeah.
And a nice little water splash as well.
That's it. Yeah.
A good display of vehicles, and
it is. I mean, it does actually really highlight the rather impressive wading depth of the Discovery Sports.
Absolutely.
And, you probably won't see that many of them getting their boots dirty, but to know they can, I guess, is a bit reassuring. So that's pretty well it for the news this week, and if there's anything you think we've missed, do let us know. I'll put the links on the screen to get in touch. Maybe you've got a charity run coming up, or something that you think's really interesting. We'll be sure to feature it. And speaking of which, last week we sent Amy down to the 16th annual London to Brighton run. Let's see how she got on.
I'm here on this freezing cold day in Epsom for the 16th annual London to Brighton Land Rover run, organised by South London and Surrey Land Rover Club. But just driving into the event itself is astonishing. There are so many landies here and ready for the day ahead. Only a few minutes into the event and we've met some old friends and made some new. So let's get going. This is the 16th year that South London and Surrey Land Rover Club have organised this event, each year changing which charity they donate the money to. When we arrive at Brighton, there should be traders, events and competitions, with all money raised going to this worthy cause. It only takes a couple of hours to get there, but as soon as we arrive, the queues are crazy. There's Land Rovers everywhere and the general public are stopping and taking pictures. The atmosphere is awesome.
Today has been absolutely fantastic for us. The weather has been so kind. We've had 500 Land Rovers turn up, buying lots of memorabilia, t-shirts, raffle tickets. The crew set up about 6 this morning, so it's a very full on day for them, but it's been going very successfully.
And there you have it. That was a hell of a lot of Land Rovers.
Yeah, superb.
Very good. And I believe they'll be doing that again next year. It's the 16th year this year. No reason to suggest that they won't be doing it next year. So we'll head down again. And coming up now in the workshop, we've got, we headed back down to Black Country 4x4, good friends of yours.
There you are.
And we had a look at some weatherproofing. Well, we can sort of see weather like this is probably a good time to be looking at weatherproofing. Have you got any done on yours, Neil?
No, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
The chassis is certainly showing signs of needing it.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I've been tempted with the idea of climbing underneath and getting the wax all gone out. But you know what, I might just leave that to the professionals.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things tragically we've seen of late is some really, really bad examples of weatherproofing. And I'm not going to name and shame companies just yet, but there are some horrible jobs done out there. And so, should we head across and see how Neil and the guys say we should do it properly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Manufacturers put good weatherproofing on, and which will last for a few years, 5 plus 6 years. It's probably a good idea to have a visual look. If it is starting to flake, chip, starting to rust, then maybe that's the time to look at getting some new weatherproofing done. All vehicles can be weatherproofed. Obviously all vehicles are open to the elements, but particularly Land Rovers, Discoveries, things like that do suffer with a bit of rot and do suffer with rust.
Whilst weatherproofing your vehicle is definitely a great idea, there are some serious pitfalls that you'll need to look out for.
There are companies out there who say that they can have the vehicle back to you within 5 hours. That's just literally steam cleaned off and weatherproofed. It takes us 3 days to weatherproof a vehicle. So that I'd be very cautious about that and sort of ask them in detail what they're actually going to do to your vehicle to weatherproof it before you actually say, yes, okay, go ahead and do it. So if a vehicle's been weatherproofed before, you can get all different grades of weatherproofing. You could get some cheap, nasty weatherproofing, which will actually cause more damage than prevent it. You'll get a stone chip in that weatherproofing, and then water will get behind, and they'll sit in there. So if we see any parts where we think there's water stuck behind the weatherproofing, we'll scratch those off. Check them with a chipping hammer. Check that it hasn't actually rotted through the chassis. So, for instance, on a cheaper underseal, you may get a stone chip, and then the water will sort of sit in that chip and then work its way behind, and then the underseal will bubble out but hold the water, and that will go for your chassis in no time at all, absolutely no time at all, and before you know it, you've just got a chassis full of holes. I've seen some terrible horror stories. When we've chipped off, we've found big holes sort of like that in chassis which have just been filled with filler and then undersealed. And obviously then we've come to it with our descaler and blown all the filler out, and suddenly there's big holes in the chassis. I've seen a lot of water being held in undersealing and rotting through chassis. Where the engine had got a lot of oil leaks and the gearbox had got a lot of oil leaks, they just undersealed over the gearbox and over the engine, covered the engine in underseal, so you wouldn't be able to see the leaks. These are the kind of things you've got to look out for.
That's the horror stories out of the way. So let's get on with the task of actually weatherproofing our vehicle.
First get the vehicle in, we lift it in the air, steam, clean it off, pressure washer it off so it's all nice and clean. Leave that to dry.
We recommend allowing about 24 hours drying time. Any moisture that's still on the vehicle will be trapped underneath the underseal and could lead to rotting.
Bring it in on the ramps, and we'd go over with a high pressured air gun, which will blow any sort of chunks of mud that we've missed with the jet wash, or any loose bits of dust, any loose bits of mud, any loose bits of rust. It will blow all that off. Once you've cleaned it off with the high powered air gun, we'll then go over it with wire brushes.
It's really important to get in there with the wire brushes, whether manual or powered. This will really give you a good idea of what sort of condition the chassis is in. Take particular care on the bits where water can sit, on top of the diff casings, on top of the chassis. And if there's too much rust for your wire brushes,
we'll also use a needle descaler where needed. If you've got some particularly bad points of rust, we'll use a needle descaler to take all those back bits off. And you basically just got to get it as clean as possible, as rust-free as possible.
Once everything's cleaned down, we want to inspect the vehicle with a chipping hammer. We're looking for patches of rust or rot that we can test with the hammer. If rot has set in, we really do need to replace it.
If you've actually got a point of corrosion and rotted, then there's nothing you can do to stop rot. You've got to cut it out. So if you've got a hole that's rotted through the chassis, it's no good just undersealing over it, because that will just grow and grow and grow.
In future shows, we're going to take a look at how to deal with rot, and in specific, a welding masterclass.
And then we look at the application of the weatherproofing then, once all that's done and we're satisfied it's all nicely cleaned off, there's no signs of any rot, and then we'll weatherproof it.
Earlier on, Neil gave the advice to really avoid the cheaper underseals. After many years in the trade, Neil recommends these two products. The Land Rover owner's favourite, Wax Oil by Hammerite. And in a spray-only form, Tetra Shots by Tetrasil.
You won't be sealing obviously the exhaust, you won't be sealing over the gearbox, you won't be undersealing anything to do with the engine. I like to put a good application on, good thick application. We usually say you could do a vehicle in six cans. I like to probably put 8 on. I'll just go that bit further, just to make sure that it's got a nice layer on and it's not going to fall off or scratch off very easily. And obviously it will last that bit longer. So it's always good to put that bit more on. Definitely to put more than not enough. I like to leave it 24 hours. If you take it out wet, you've got a lot of chance of knocking a bit off, and obviously you don't really want that. So I like to give it 24 hours for it to go as hard as it's going to go, and then you've got more chance of it staying on and not knocking any off, especially when you're off-roading and things like that.
And that concludes weatherproofing. It's not rocket science, but there are some pitfalls. And some closing wise words from Neil.
I mean, the main thing is with weatherproofing is prevention is better than cure. Make sure you get your weatherproofing nice and early. It's no good coming in the middle of sort of December, halfway through the winter, then decide to do your weatherproofing, because damage could already be done by then. Get your weatherproofing done well before the bad weather, because it will just save you a lot of problems and a lot of hassle. It's definitely get it done early winter, opposed to in the middle of the winter.
And there you have it, that's how to weatherproof your Land Rover, and that does apply to all different models of Land Rover, by the way, not just the ones we've shown there. You guys at West Midlands 4x4, well, what events and stuff do you do?
Well, obviously we're a West Midlands based club. We've been going for about 10 years. I've been chairing it for about 7. And we like to think that we're a family friendly club. I mean, you've seen the inside, you've seen the kids running around.
Yeah, we brought our own kids along today.
Absolutely. So. It's about having fun in your Land Rover with like-minded people. Of course it is. You know, we like to run camping trips, holidays, green laning trips.
And we've got a camping trip coming up in
we
just a few
indeed,
weeks.
yeah. So at the end of the month, we're going off to Bala.
Yeah. I expect that to be really good, because again, like you say about the family things, winter's coming, it's getting a bit cold, but actually it'd be nice to go out now the show season's finished, and
That's right.
And we'll bring some photos and bits of news along the way from when we go on that trip, because that's one I'm really looking forward to just relaxing
and me.
So yeah. So we'll put some information on the screen that takes us to actually our new black book, where we've put a directory of all the clubs that we've met from throughout the summer. So you'll find on the link below, that'll take you to the West Midlands 4x4 club page. If you're in a club and we've missed it, that is not in our directory, do let us know. And we're going to head back inside shortly. But in the interim, we went to the Co-op the other day and did a really, a potentially morbid piece, I guess, on death.
Interesting, though.
Yeah, I think so. And the Co-operative funeral care, they've bought themselves, in addition to some of their other special vehicles, a new Defender, which maybe that's not a bad way to go as your last journey, is it? So.
Absolutely. I think Land Rover's in the blood. If you've got it in the blood, there's no getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a Land Rover person through and through, that's the way you want to go.
Not
isn't
a bad way to go,
Absolutely,
is it? So,
yeah. Being taken off in a Defender.
Yeah, they'd have to tie the back door up on my 90 otherwise if I wanted to go. So, well, let's take a look at what they've got going on at Co-op.
Certainly in Great Britain, there has been for many years a bit of a stiff upper lip attitude about death and about funerals. We don't talk about it until it happens, and I think the more that we can have that conversation with our friends and family when it's appropriate, and the more we're prepared to do that, I think the better it will be, because it makes the whole very traumatic time just that little bit easier, knowing that you're doing something that the person wanted. We have over sort of 1,500 hearses and limousines, what you probably regard as more conventional types of vehicles. But we also have a small collection of the specialist vehicles. We have a vintage Austin hearse, we have a Vauxhall Wyvern that the guys at the depot are actually doing themselves, converting themselves and reconditioning, and that should be due in the next couple of months. We have a Buddhist hearse, we have a bicycle tandem hearse as well. There are all sorts of choices out there. This funeral vehicle is a Land Rover Defender 110. We got it as a stock vehicle from the manufacturer, but I had the idea that it would be potentially quite popular as a specialist hearse.
We had the deck fitted in the back, we've had an auxiliary battery fitted to run the winch on the trailer and to power the lights that illuminate the coffin when it's in the back. We had little modifications done, like raise the cubby box so it's more comfortable for driving, and had a DAB radio fitted so it's a bit more pleasing. The vehicle came with a snorkel and the side steps from standard. We don't intend to use it, it's just for aesthetics and show more than anything.
So we're hoping that it will be on our fleet for a good time yet, and providing it's running well, it looks smart and it does the job we need to do, we'll continue with it on the fleet.
Black cars are predominantly, they look clean for 5 minutes, but the minute you drive them down the road, they're dirty again. The Defender can be washed up to 6 times a week. We use the best, I'd like to say, auto glim, because we feel it's the best for our needs. We keep on top of the Defender regularly, otherwise it'll just you end up working harder to clean it more often. It gets serviced on mileage or when needed. Anything that this Defender needs, it gets, to try and keep it on the road.
I think funerals have changed certainly over the last 10 years, and we at the Co-operative Funeral Care want to encourage as much choice and as much personalisation as families feel comfortable with, because we're all unique people, we've led unique lives, and really the funeral should be a unique tribute, to those lives. We also offer a reflections type coffin. This is a picture coffin that we have here, and they are one-off items, so families sometimes choose their own pictures. So if you are a Land Rover lover, you can have your picture of your own vehicle on there if you wanted to. You can have pictures of your family and friends as well. The whole idea in terms of the reflections coffin is that it can be completely personalised and should be.
Well, how about that then? That's
Amazing. Yeah.
quite. I thought really interesting just quite how many choices there are out there, and you and I have never sat down and discussed what we want, but that's what I want.
That's what I want. And you know what is interesting? That whole coffin thing. The vinyl wrap that they're able to put around it.
Yeah.
I think during the lifetime of a Land Rover enthusiast, you're going to accumulate a whole bunch of photographs of you doing something rather special in your Land Rover, and to have the ability to have that.
Not just waste them on Facebook, but have them on your
as a party shop. Yeah. Brilliant.
I quite like that vinyl wrap on my actual Land Rover, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That'd be quite cool. So that really... Oh no, that's not it. We've got a competition one, haven't we?
Andy Halliday, yes. So last week, do you remember what we gave away? The disc lock.
Yes, so we gave away a disc lock, and the competition was really just to share the site around. We had a huge amount of shares, which is really good. That's been our most successful competition to date, so thank you all who entered. And what was that name once more? We'll put it on the screen.
Andy Halliday.
And that was via Facebook.
Via Facebook.
So thank you very much, Andy. And in next week's show, we're going to give away a whole bunch of 1948 original equipment gear.
And it's all good gear, isn't it?
It is all gear.
It's all good gear.
Ordinarily, when it's not raining, it's sported by myself. And that's pretty well it for this week. Thank you so much for being our guest host, Neil. And if you want to find out a bit more information about some of the things that Neil does, whether it be West Midlands 4x4, we'll put the link on the screen for that. And as a purveyor of fine quality for aftermarket Land Rover and overlanding parts, there's also the 4B website, so check that out there. And I think all that remains to say is, one more thing, of course, the social network links. If you do want to get in touch with us, maybe you don't like the show, maybe you do like the show, maybe we should keep Neil and get rid of me, let us know. The links are on the screen for that. And we've been practicing a wave. You've not practiced this wave before, have you? Our guys that wave thing. This is something spawned by Jeremy. Well, it's just like that with your best Wallace and Gromit smile. Bye.
Bye.